What's up, everyone? I hope we're doing well. I want to take a little bit of time to talk a little bit about dynamic effort. That is, efforts where you're moving the bar fast and explosive as opposed to kind of traditional hypertrophy work where you might be doing more reps, or max effort work where it's designed for more strength. The dynamic effort work is designed to, train more power essentially, but it's to move lighter weights faster with maximal intent. Intent meaning you're trying to lift it as fast as you can so you're achieving the highest obtainable velocity you possibly can in the movement. Now, some things I've learned from the dynamic effort method are, some really important takeaways that can help with your performance and training. And so let's just go right into it and talk about it. One, the dynamic effort, when you're trying to move something with maximal intent, it really makes you realize how many reps in the past you have done that weren't very meaningful. You've done probably lots of reps. Now, I'm assuming those reps maybe were for some other purposes, but maybe there are times there you did some reps where you kind of, I don't want to say coasted, but you didn't lift it with as much intent as you possibly could. And we're not producing as much force into the bar. If we're not doing that, we're not training that. And now within that context, the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of times when you lift, you don't really accelerate the bar that fast, at least intentionally, off the initial phase. You kind of, sometimes if it's a lightweight, you kind of ease it up and build into it. And that's okay, but then you realize that specific range of motion's never really getting that much force and drive behind it. And I was reading a Russian sports science textbook the other day, and it mentioned that when we're doing explosive, powerful movements, we should really focus on the initial acceleration of the bar. Now, obviously, assuming that your form is good and intact, we're not sacrificing form for acceleration, we should emphasize that beginning portion. And I said, that makes a lot of sense, actually, because if we are jumping or moving, the concentration of effort and force is in those initial stages, right? Think about you're running for a ball, or someone passes the ball in basketball, you're gonna make a cut, or you go to block somebody, or you're just jumping in general. The initial concentration of force is really important because, that big burst of explosion is where a lot of that movement comes from. But when we go in the weight room, like I have over here set up, some chains, getting ready to do some, it's not set up yet, I'll do some pulls eventually. We don't really always, I guess if you're doing the dynamic effort method, you are, but sometimes when you're not doing that kind of method, you're not really emphasizing that initial acceleration. So we're not really training that rapid activation of the muscles. So if you think about it, you have the brain and you have the neurons that extend to the muscles, and those activate the muscles that actually create movement. When we work on explosive rapid force production, we're training the initial ability of the body to activate its musculature to move something quickly, like that of sport and movement. So while heavy weights like hypertrophy, you could say train the muscles and the tissues, yes, obviously it trains the nervous system because your body is part of it, but it trains the muscles, predominantly the contractile properties, that is the actual fibers. You could say things that are explosive also train the nervous system with a little more concentration, right? Because you're trying to rapidly activate it. A really easy example to understand the importance of the nervous system in regards to muscles is you want to think about, muscles and movement. Think about like the electrical system to turn on a light. When you flip the switch, that is the initial intent to move. When the light turns on, that is movement. In a poor wired house with poor wire, I'm not really sure if these exist, but let's imagine a house with poor wiring. You flip the switch and it takes a minute for that light bulb to get the signal and light up. That would be a slower firing nervous system versus one where you flip the switch and it's instantly very bright. That's what we're trying to do kind of with our movements. We're trying to initially produce lots of force quickly into the bar so we can train that initial force production. So that's something I've learned that we take for granted if you don't perform movements with maximal intent. Something I've learned from the dynamic effort method. Now, again, this has been talked about by Russian sports scientists since like the 60s and popularized by Louie, Simmons, and Westside Barbell with the use of bands and chains to help overcome what is called accommodating resistance, because when you move a lightweight really fast, the bar just wants to keep moving, so you add a little bit of accommodating resistance, like do my weatherman thing, my chains on the bar here, because as I lift it, it adds more weight. It doesn't make the bar go flying off into the air. It makes dynamic effort a little easier to actually do. All those have many benefits for not just performance, but also just developing general qualities of muscular power. So I wanted to share that with you, and I hope you all enjoy. If you guys like these videos, please feel free to share, comment, and like. I appreciate y'all. I want to keep these going here. I know I've fallen off a little bit about some things, and I want to be a little more consistent. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you enjoy, and as always, take care.